Hey, welcome to another week. We are
Here we are again.
filming on the Wednesday instead of the Monday this week. With camps going.
Thursday.
How's camps going, buddy?
Camps are going great.
Yeah,
Good crew of kids. They've been awesome. Our volunteers have been fantastic. Camps have been by and large smooth outside of all your little little bumps and scrapes and stuff like that happen when you got a bunch of semi-athletic kids all together, or you stick non-athletic kids with athletic kids.
Yeah,
people are moving in ways that you don't expect, so you always get some bruising and some people running into each other. But besides that, it's been really good. The kids, I think, are doing great. I think, man, we are very blessed with the leaders that we have. And
so we got Yessie kind of oversees everything, and then we got a grant for 2 summer jobs.
Students.
So we got Desiree and Eva.
Yeah. And they've been fantastic.
And everything else is volunteer other than you. You still get paid this week.
Yeah, I get paid. I get paid to play basketball, which is awesome. And it's like, hey, how's your week going? I purposely decided on the summer Hawaiian tropical. I'm on vacation. I'm old because I was trying to temper.
It doesn't say old at all.
I was trying to temper the expectations of myself, not other people. Really, it's about myself. And I made it all of an hour on Monday when I forgot for 3 seconds that it did not matter. And I could be chill. And I tried to steal a basketball, tripped over a kid's foot, did a full out roll, road rash on the elbow, road rash on the dad bod, and got back up. And I was like, all right, I'm good. This is not happening again this week. And I've done well. I haven't flipped that switch again. It's been...
So let's go to, because we were talking about, kind of carry on what we talked about last week. Because last week we talked about why a lot of Christians don't go to church. And we could have talked about lots more. There's lots of good stuff. But I was thinking about, decisions we've made as a church. Why do you think running these camps are so valuable? Because it is a lot. It's a lot of staffing. It's a lot of energy. A lot of churches are slower in the summer. So even when you think about, the health of your staff, we certainly don't do much of a break for the whole summer. Like we take our vacation and stuff, like you do that still, but it's high stress. And then as soon as this is done, then we go into the high stress season of planning the next year, which church world starts again in September. And so we've talked about this. And so I'm curious on your thoughts. Like I'm not volunteering in this one. But you've been here. Thoughts? Why do we still do this? Is this something we need to do going forward? It's a lot of resources, and so I know people have said that, and so I'm just curious on your thoughts.
It's a very non-traditional kind of vacation Bible school type of approach that we do. It's really more character building, generic, not really kind of like in the face, pushing Jesus type of camp that we do. Although there is some elements of that, but they're more through the connections that you build with the kids and just showing them love and kindness. But to answer your question, why is it important? My memory goes back to when I was 7, 8, 9. Every year we did karate camp. So we were enrolled in karate. And that
You did karate camp?
Oh, dude, I did karate for 9 years.
Oh, yeah, you are like a black or brown or pink belt or something.
Pink is probably more appropriate if we're going to be totally honest. No, but I did karate camp for years, and shout out to Roger and Sue and Gary and all those that ran Legacy Karate in St. Thomas. But they would do like a kids camp, and we would go to Dalewood. And we would just bring our tents, and you bring some food, and you go camping, and we do some karate stuff. We go swimming, and we'd hang out, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a way to, we had to take care of ourselves basically. Obviously, there was adults, and there was the proper supervision, and there was people around, and if you couldn't do stuff, but you basically had to cook your food and make your breakfast and get yourself ready for the day, and then be on time for the event. And there was just all those different little character things that sometimes, within the household may not like develop as quickly because, mom or dad are always there, or the older brother's always there to do it for you.
Right.
It just gave an opportunity to be able to enjoy and experience without always having the same hierarchy around you, or authority, or like your parents. And you had people around you that were going to protect you and take care of you, but a little bit different. And I have great memories of those camps. Like I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was a lot of fun. We'd always hike around, the Dalewood Lake there every year. It was a good time. So I think about like the kids coming here and the interactions and being able to, get them smiling and laughing. I think about the opportunities to teach them something on the sports field or the court, and give them an opportunity to see that they can do something that maybe in their normal setting they haven't had the time, or they haven't taken the time, or maybe at their school it's just a different environment that they just didn't pick it up. And for them to be able to like see that, oh, I can shoot a basketball, or I can kick that ball, or I can catch a football. Right. It gives them a little taste of confidence in themselves, that they can do something maybe they thought they couldn't do, or they can keep up with the kid that they look at and go, why is he able to do it and I can't? And then they have that little moment where, the light goes on and they're able to do something, and you can see that they're excited, and they're, they got a big smile on their face. They're proud of what they were able to do. They get the high five that maybe they haven't gotten. They get the well done, or that was awesome, that they haven't heard before. And all of a sudden they feel like they can. Right. And there's just something magical, something powerful about a kid who believes in himself. And just seeing that happen every day is awesome.
What do you think? So I know when you were in Woodstock, you ran a youth night. It's very successful, lots of kids, good engagement. And one of the things that I see in a lot of these programs, we struggle to translate attendance at some of these events into Sunday mornings, or just into church life. And I know this is a wide open question. But what do you think? Because I know your answer from Woodstock would be, I think there's some uniqueness to it as to why they didn't translate into attending on Sundays. But I think a lot of camps, and so when I think about, as a church, there's part of this that we're running where we just want to love on our community. Like, we're not deceptive in what we do. We're not trying to pretend, hey, show up, and then we'll sneak Jesus into it. We're very clear in what we do. We know the curriculum. It's been the same, like Mega Sports Camp we run twice a summer. It's been the same every year. You do promote Jesus, but it's really geared towards people learning to play sports, learning to love each other, learning to be loved, and then learning about Jesus. It's not, and so we're not sneaky with that. Whereas VBS, that's brutal. That's very for Christians. If you are a Christian, you want to develop, you go to Vacation Bible School. But when you think about what we operate as a church, and you think about kind of where we're trying to go, what are some of the hindrances that keep people from going, man, if that was so awesome, why wouldn't I join the church?
I think that's a good question. And I think some of the answer in part is rooted in the long-standing view of what the church has been for the last 100 years, at least in people's mind, or 200 years, or whatever length of time of season that we're currently in this movement of what church is. So there's always a perception that people have. And when they come to a kids camp and they're encouraged, they have a good time, they have fun, they laugh, they're taught things about character and ethic and about, high-fiving their teammates and enjoying other people's successes as much as people are enjoying their successes. And they're in that environment. And then when their parents think about church, they might have a different perception of what their experience had been from their time growing up. And I think peeling back that barrier that's been developed as like an understanding of what church culture is. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a complicated thing for people to really understand unless there's a depth of like connection to what that particular, local church is doing, for them to see that, oh, this is different. This isn't what my idea is. It might contain some of the similar things. There might be, a Sunday morning might seem the same as like everybody else's, like in that regard. But there's a different layer there because it's not just an inward focused entity. At least here, we're very much, we want to be outward focused and, pouring love and light out in the community, not just kind of holding it to ourselves. Right. And I think that translation is difficult unless people are willing to step in to see. And even then, you're going to step into something that might remind you of something that you didn't like.
Right.
And unless you're willing to like kind of work through those things, then I think some of the other incredible benefits of a faith community get missed. And I think sometimes that's hard. I think it's a very good question, but I think it's a hard one just to answer with. I think the answer is this. I think people have to catch the vision of what, we're trying to do here. And we're not just a group of people that are all perfect and healthy and, this is fantastic and we're all lovey-dovey on each other all the time and everything is wonderful. But rather we're a bunch of broken people who are striving to be the best image of ourselves that God made us to be. And we're working with each other through all of our brokennesses to help each other to get there. Right. And I think that's a whole different thing. And I think if people were to see that, they would see value in it. Because I think there's a...
What does the church do better than? Like, because if we think about, a business, because sometimes you go to these like little hole in the wall places that we go to, and they have phenomenal food. But then they end up closing down because there's just not enough people. But the food is amazing. Like, how do you, as a church, like when you look at some of this stuff, like, because it is really interesting, the world that we live in right now, because people still want their kids to be moral, especially where we live. Like, you want moral kids. And so parents will send their kids to camps like this knowing they're preaching Jesus, but okay with it because they think it's good for the kids. And so there's that interesting dynamic of people who are like, we know that, some Jesus would be good for our kids, but we don't want to be a part of a church. But then the two of us would go, like, our experience with church has been just phenomenal. Like, it's life-giving. I love it. It's phenomenal. I think I said phenomenal twice there, but that's how excited I am. Very excited. What does the church do better to help bridge some of that gap?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's a great question. I would come back with, I think people's idea of what they've seen from church of who Jesus is not accurate.
But what if it's good? Because me and you, like, we have friends who love us, do not
come to
want
church,
anything to do with church.
Yeah,
because I think, and I could be wrong, but I feel like we've been stuck in a cliche of why people aren't coming for too long. Well, people aren't coming because the church isn't doing anything. No, in our region, the church has been so unbelievably beneficial. Like, when you look at the last 15 years, like what the church, even before Family Central, there was that little restaurant that they started. The Elmer Ministerial started, and they were trying to find jobs for people. Like, they were so active. The food bank, ECAP, like all these.
Yeah, ECAP has been wonderful for years. It's
right?
unreal.
Like, there's all these things, Christmas Care. Like, so many of these things are done by the church, by Christians. And then you look at just, our experience and our ability as a church to be able to be like, hey, it's okay for our pastors to spend some of their paid time investing in minor sports. That's crazy. It's completely different. You look at what we do with Family Central. You look at a lot of these things and you okay, it's having a massive impact, but there just seems to be this barrier where people are struggling to allow, I don't know if it's God back in, because they like the church people, I think, most of us. So, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like some of our conversations are so generic. Like,
it's a tough question, because when you look at like the impact of really the church over centuries, you look at hospitals and schools, and you look at like improvements and just the elevation of people from poverty, out of poverty, and a lot of that spawned through people of faith. Pouring into communities and loving on people to help pull them out. There almost seems to be a disconnect now between the activities and engagement of what the church brings to community and the community understanding that. Like, it seems like and to give you a great answer on that, that's a hard one, but I think of the same disconnect that I had between like Optimus Park. We would play as kids. Hey, let's go to Optimus Park. Well, I didn't realize that Optimus Park was there because of the Optimus. Like, it was a complete disconnect. I didn't know.
Well, that's part of the reason I'm asking, though, is like, is it literally a PR problem? And I know that sounds ridiculously simple, but how would people know if they just don't know?
I think that's valid. If people knew how many, like when we did the interviews of the political candidates on the peanut gallery, And literally, like, every single person that we interviewed had a faith position.
Right.
Most people wouldn't know that.
No.
Or wouldn't consider that, or wouldn't think. But behind the camera, the conversations that we had with the individuals were way deeper and more profound, and like in terms of like their faith position, and there seems to be a disconnect. Almost like people are like, "Well, I'm not going to put my faith out there," and I think I think some of that is the problem. And I think that's because of how certain shades of the faith community have, put light onto who Jesus is in a certain way. So people they shy away from it, when I think what actually needs to happen is more of the right kind of light needs to shine. And that would help people to understand better. But I think that's a complicated question. Is it a PR thing? Is it a marketing thing? Man, that's...
Well, because again, I just look at some of this and I go, okay, so again, so we went to Huckleberry's in Elmer there when they opened a little coffee shop. We went there because somebody posted something and the coffee looks really good. And every time I see anything from theirs now, I'm like, oh, snap, that looks delicious. And so then I look at the church's reluctance as a whole to spend time and energy into anything that has to do with media. Like, you look prior to COVID, most churches refused to go into live stream. They refused to go into anything. Like, we don't have a heavy social media. And even when you do, like most of even the stuff that we do, like so much of it is just literally geared towards Christians, right? Like the stuff you send out, if you're non-Christian, where's it? You're right. Like, because again, like when you think about, again, I'm going to go with Huckleberry's, a new little restaurant. Failure rate at restaurants is ridiculous. Like, it's so high. It's like 90% in the first 5 years. And so when you look at that and you go, okay, whatever I send out cannot just be geared towards those who already like me. I have to continue to build that base. And I feel like as churches, everything, from elders to the way congregation, everything sees it, I don't know where we think people are going to learn about us. Like, where is it? Because everybody kind of assumes that, and there's that salt and light thing. Jesus says we're supposed to be salt and light, and that's true. But some of that is not translating to the connection between the reason I am who I am is because I'm part of the church and I follow Jesus. And so then you have the other extreme ditch where people are like standing on the corner screaming it. But I feel like we're in the ditch where we're not intentionally being active about telling people about him because we don't know a creative way to do it. We should know what we don't want to do. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to find somebody on the street and say, you're going to hell if you don't follow. But we also don't have a plan to say, this is how we're going to try to reach people in Elmer who don't know. And I just, the more I think about this, I'm like, man, our Sunday mornings are awesome. I'm like looking forward to the testimonies of Sunday. Like, I love being here. How would anyone know that? How do we do a better job? And I know the live stream's gotten way better. But again, all of that requires somebody pausing long enough to be able to give us an hour and a half on a Sunday morning in a culture that's overtired and incredibly leery of anything religious at this point. You look at the political parties in the U.S. and just how religion is being thrown around and abused.
Oh my, yeah.
Right? Well, why would anyone want to tune into that? And so to me, that's one of those things that I'm like, how do we send out what we're doing and help people process some of this in a way, like, because you got to think, again, I just go back to the restaurant thing, like, we need a bigger customer base, but everything we send out is going to our current customers.
Right. So that doesn't work.
So how do you reach that? And you've got that hat on, which makes me think that you can have incredible wisdom. Like, there are things. So I don't know, like, you know what I mean though? Like, it dawns on me as I think about even sports camp, like the word of mouth about sports camp has been phenomenal and it fills up. But with Sunday mornings, regardless of how amazing it is, there are thousands of people in our region who continue to drive by. And I don't care about them being all here, but they don't know Jesus. And the thing that they know about him is like whatever somebody has told them. And we keep complaining. Sorry, my brain is spinning as we're talking about this. But okay, so one of our big things is we keep complaining about the agenda coming out of Hollywood. But where's the other thing to view?
Right.
Like, you complain about people doom scrolling. Well, what are we sending them to? Stop doing that, go here. Where's the better story?
Well,
I know it's such a huge topic. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's a great topic. I think there is. I think there's like when we talk specifically about camp, obviously, the kids are going to know that they're going to remember that they went to this rural church, and hopefully they'll have a memory of they had a great time. Their huddle leaders were great. Their coaches were great. They laughed, they played, they had a wonderful week. And hopefully that will somewhere in their memory be something that can be drawn on for when the moment comes where they maybe realize that life is more complicated than what they're capable of living on their own. That'll translate into something where they come. But what about the current parents? I think we draw from such a wide area of people. Like there's people from all over the region that bring their kids to the camp here, from the far sides of St. Thomas to, further out by Tilsonburg. Like it's a wide area. My question would be is like, who in those areas where they are they connected to have those relationships that could speak enough light where they would be like, I'd be willing to give that church a chance because of what I see from this person, or because of how that person has poured into our family and our life. I think some of the answer lies there, not all of it. I totally agree. I think the church has done not a very good job of promoting itself in a sense, or marketing itself, or at least those are fancy words to say, of communicating to people the message that, that they are loved and that this is a place for you.
Right. Well, I think of this commercial or this ad I've seen on, I don't even know if it's an ad, a commercial, or if it's a show or what it is. The new guy gets hired at a used car dealership. And so he's an older guy. I think it's a movie. I don't know what movie it is. Maybe it's a terrible movie. This scene is funny. So if it's a bad movie, my bad. So he gets hired at this car dealership, an older guy, and the other guys that are there already are like, hey, look, let's put this guy in his place. We're gonna tell him, we'll put $2,000, $3,000 or something on the fact that you can't go out there and make that sale. And
I've seen.
Do you know the one? Yeah. Okay, and
yeah.
so the guy that they send him to actually owns the dealership,
right?
And so he goes out there, comes walking in, and the owner comes walking in, and he goes, I don't know how he did that, but I just bought one of my own cars. And I often think about that. I'm like, you can have 3 different salespeople coming to your door, all selling the same product, and you'll buy from one. And there's a reason for it. There's a reason about how they communicate, how they say things, how they connect with you. And so then when I think about the local church, and again, as we're saying this, let's be clear, this is on us pastors.
Yeah.
Most of this is on us pastors. We're the ones paid to do this. So this is not hey, like you guys, no. This is us as pastors and where we prioritize our time and how we put stuff out and all that stuff. But when you look at my ADHD, sometimes I have to come back to remember where I wanted to go with that. Sales. Oh, miracles. Here we are. Miracles.
That was good.
Okay. So Jesus, when he performed miracles, one of the things that was said about it was like, it was God's way of showing people that he was who he claimed he was. Now, the miracles themselves was not why people followed him. Right, because there's lots of people yelling "crucify him," who had received miracles, who had seen these miracles.
Right.
But God did those, and then when you think about like the instance of, whether it's a cripple or I'm trying to remember the exact reference, but somebody gets healed and they go running to the temple and everybody's like, we knew for sure this guy was blind, but now he can see. And there's something strategic in what God was doing there. Like God did not just arbitrarily heal somebody. There was a strategy. That guy, he knew where he was going to go. He knew he was going to go running back to the temple and force people to kind of go, okay, what are we going to do with this? And so then when people in our day and age think about social media, everybody's terrified of it. And it's like, is it even Christian? Well, no, but it's the strategy of communication. So Jesus, when he healed that man, the end result was that a social media post went out as that person. Because that person went to the most public place and told everybody, I have been healed. And so then when I think about what we do and how resistant we are to some of it, I wonder sometimes, I'm like, should we be more intentional and should we be spending more effort and energy, not to push, some of the generic religious stuff where you're just fighting with other religious people, but just like, oh man, some of these testimonies have been profound. Mm-hmm. Like, how do you share some of those stories? When I look at the way Jesus reached his community, exactly what you said. We have to live it. We have to be authentic. We have to be all those things. But I do think that we don't think enough about it, and I think people rule it out. Like I keep going back to the amount of things. Like somebody said something to me the other day. They said they felt like they couldn't get into the inner circle of our church, and I just had to laugh and be like, "Who is the inner circle of our church? We are the most eclectic, weird little group of people. What group are you trying to get into?"
Yeah,
right? But we do a lot of those general statements. Well, the church is reaching the lost. How? We're, working in community and we're trying to change culture. How? Like who? Whose responsibility is that? How are we going to get better messaging out? Because again, it is super interesting, in my opinion, at least. Like you look at a lot of the revivals happening through sports last year. You look at, Ohio State's team, and you look at, I can't remember some of the other colleges. There was all sorts of them that were posting. You have these worship services. These are major secular universities. But somehow that doesn't translate. Like Christians get excited about it.
Right.
How do you translate some of that and help people who are, if you just kind of look at it on a numeric scale, if people are at 0, that's baptism, -10 is furthest away. How do you help those with -10 even consider something? Because saying that Christians, that athletes, that highly successful athletes are Christians doesn't really relate to the average person who is not a highly successful athlete, right? Like, cool, you're getting baptized. Neat. So what? So how do you, and I know this is not where we had wanted to go, but this is what was racing through my head as soon as we started talking about camps. I'm like, man, people love this place, but then there seems to be a disconnect. And is it in what we communicate? And is this a challenge to me, you, and Trev to be more creative and spend some more time in trying to figure out, like, we love this place. Like I say this over, I love this place. I cannot be more excited that my kids get to grow up here, that I got to experience what I did. But man, I struggle to be able to articulate that well for others and to even get them thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Like how do you communicate the depth of meaning, the profoundness of what you've received from what God has done in a specific place or season of your life, and very much associated to here. Right. I think you're right. Better communication, maybe more intentionality with the conversations that we have with people. I don't have the answer to that question. I really don't. I've seen it done like the other way, where it's very intentionally in people's faces.
How much time do we have, Trev?
And the result hasn't been much different. But
how much time do we have? We've got 36 minutes.
So in some of the churches that we follow, like I think of Mosaic. They've done the Mosaic in LA, so that's Erwin McManus. They've done a phenomenal chance of speaking into culture, phenomenal job of speaking into culture. So Erwin gets to connect with all sorts of people, high levels, he speaks into multiple different countries and multiple different spaces, like super impactful, small church.
Yeah.
And then you have other churches that are massive and have little impact outside of that one little group. And so then it's always been intriguing because I followed Erwin for so many years, being like, I just always expected him to become a megachurch pastor. He's so influential. There's so many people.
But he's not.
And that's just something that seems to kind of get at me. Like I often think about it. I'm like, is that maybe part of our call? And I guess this is where it gets a little more personal to us. Like, who were we supposed to be called to speak into? Like you think about even how me and you ended up working here together. That's a crazy story, but God aligned a lot of things. Mm-hmm. The fact that we have a lot of the same passions and a lot of the same calls. And so then you kind of go, okay, so then going into this, as we think about speaking into culture, do we just fall into too many easy, like the easiest thing always is just build a big church. And then I look at Erwin and I go, man, that just was not like he tried all sorts of things to get into culture. But then I don't know, as my brain spins, like I think our community is better because creative and advanced are here. I think, when I go to Peter at Absolute Health and Wellness there, like when I go there, what he's loved for is the fact that he talks to people and he communicates with people and people love going there. Yeah, there's the chiropractor piece, but so there's lots of people like that. And then I look at the different innovative things people have done with farming and people have done with industries. So, I mean, some of that is happening. I just feel like churches get stuck. And we're just kind of like, okay, well, this is what churches do. And there's a culture out there crying out for hope and crying out for, some answers.
Yeah, I know we've talked about this, but I definitely think we have to be willing to allow God to lead the vision for what each church is supposed to be. I think on average it would be much more. That's what I think. I really do.
Sorry, expand on that before I ask a question that goes somewhere else.
Well,
what do you mean that there's more? Like there's more that God is calling them to, or there's more that...
I just think there's more creativity, there's more innovation, there's more imagination, there's more than just what happens on a Sunday morning.
So why do you think that gets lost? Because our people, like you look at back in my history, like our Mennonite people, like we have done crazy things to follow God on both extremes. Mm-hmm. But like some of it, like we destroyed all the creativity and all the innovation and everything in the sake of, following God. What is it within churches now when I look at, where we are? Why are they not the most creative? Why are they not the most innovative? If God is who he claims he is, why aren't they leading the charge on a lot of this stuff? Like, why can you make that statement and both of us agree and everyone listening would agree? Well, not everyone. I'm sure there's somebody, but...
I don't know. I think part of it is the disconnect where church is like, well, this is what church is. It's like this little box of what it is, but church isn't four walls. It's an assembly of people. So that those people are creative and visionary and entrepreneurial by nature. Like a large percentage of them are. But somehow we disconnect that from what the church is. And I think that is a problem. Because then we don't think of Sunday morning as more than just, 4 songs and a sermon. Where Sunday morning is a collection of all these wildly imaginative and creative people that are coming together for the purpose of, worshiping Jesus, but that Jesus created them to be creative. Right. And those expressions, I think, should be seen and felt in at least some way in the community, right, outside of the walls of the church, which I think maybe some of that is also like, we have our little centers, and once we have our centers built, we kind of like, all right, we did it. We're good. Right. Rather than what's, okay, so why did he give us like this place where the heart can beat, but where's everything else? Right. Like where's the rest of what this body should be, showing to the people in the community, right, rather than just where the heartbeat is. Right. Where's the rest of it? Right. And I think that's part of it. This is a complicated issue because we talked about it when we went to LA, and we listened to messages and we're like, okay, so how does that translate in Elmer, in a rural community church? Well, a lot of it doesn't, because it's not like we're like trying to duplicate, because we're not. Mm-hmm. That's not the point. But what we are trying to do is follow where God's leading us. And that's the point. Right. But that's complicated. Right.
Well, and then I think that there's the flip side of all this. Maybe it's not flip side, but another perspective, that when Jesus did show up, his key goal was to lay his life down for people who did not know God. And so then you go, okay, well, in one sense, I think more innovation, I think more creativity in how we discuss things, more open conversations, a lot of those things. But then there's also the other part, like what part of our culture that's suffering is God calling us to lay our lives down for? Because if we're supposed to love the way he loved, then that's going to require sacrifice, because there's no way that he's calling us to an easier love than he was called.
Yeah, I would agree.
So then what are some of those things? And so we could go in so many different routes with it, but I do think maybe one of the things that, as people are listening, whether it's from our church or others, like I think there's a big we need to give ourselves permission to ask some of these questions. Why the church is being a success in so many areas, but there are thousands and thousands of people who drive by and who do not see us as valuable at all, and have not connected some of those dots. And I think asking the question, at least, like, is there a way of beginning some conversations is there a way of helping people get past some of their fears and their doubts? And is there something we can do? At the end of the day, people are free. And we're very clear on what Paul writes in Romans, that, God is going to scream through the rocks or scream through whatever, he wants to use, and that nobody is, without guilt, because the Holy Spirit has, gone everywhere and it's going ahead. So not to say that we're the Holy Spirit, but to kind of go like, man, when I look at any other industry, you're creative and you're innovative in how you reach your target audience. And then you find new ways of continually growing that capacity, and you scale up. And churches are just like, we're going to throw away everything we know about humanity, everything we know about growing anything, and we're just going to build a building and be like, hey, you want to show up? And I think there's a part of that, if it's good enough, people find out about those hole-in-the-wall restaurants, right? If it's good enough. Mm-hmm. And so I think we're definitely seeing some of that, but I do think from the flip side, I think we have to give ourselves permission to kind of go, man, where are the people gifted in some of this? Like, it would be super cool if some of the people listening to this would be like shooting us messages, being like, hey, I got some ideas. I think we should try some of this. We should try some of that.
Do you think, like, when I think of like a business person, somebody that's entrepreneurial, somebody who's trying to start a company, they're trying to like make this thing happen. They're like trying to build essentially like the vision that they have in their head. Where's the disconnect then, like from that vision to what the church should be? Or how does that vision impact the vision of the church? Or how does that because I always think of like, we're supposed to, like, your kingdom come.
Right.
It's supposed to be his kingdom now. Right. Not later, now. Like, we are supposed to be living kingdom lives now. So how does that aspect of them building this life, or just any person building their life, what's the disconnect in terms of the energy and the effort and the commitment and what the assembly of believers, the church, is supposed to be? Because it seems like there is.
I was chatting with somebody this morning, and so we kind of got onto this. And so my instinctual reaction is that we live for who we love. And so I think as churches, if you continue to love your community, you will find ways to do that. And I think we lose that love. Like, I think when a friend of ours has an addiction problem, you drop everything and you find creative ways to talk to them and to meet with them. When somebody is, going through divorce, you find ways. When somebody is, and so who you love will very much define how you live. And I think as churches grow, you end up more and more being in a place that we love the people that are here. And so then everything that we do, and the disconnect isn't the fact that we don't love, it's who we love. And I think that's the brilliance of Jesus going, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And those three things, you are supposed to love who you are and how God created you. Then you are supposed to love those around you and your neighbors. And he did not say the other Christian, he said your neighbor, right? And he gave lots of parables on what the neighbor was, but I think that's the problem. It's in who we love. And I think in our culture and day and age, we struggle with self-love, and we love who we want to love. And that just kind of destroys all of it. And I think that to me, and I know we're out of time, Trevor's yawning and making motions there from what I can see. Oh, I thought you were making motions that we were like out of time because I don't have a clock. I don't have a stopwatch.
No, you're good.
Okay, so you know what I mean though? Like I think it's who you love. And so when you think about what churches do, okay, so if I'm the average church, in my highest priority is going to be on Sunday morning. That's where the majority of my time is. All of my hiring, all of my staffing is geared around that Sunday morning. That speaks volumes to who you love. I already know who you love. You love the people that are going to come through those doors. That's it. Like we can't even pretend we love anyone else because nothing that we're doing shows it, right? Like if you tell your wife you love her and do nothing for her, she knows you don't love her. When you authentically love her, regardless of whether she had a crappy day or she's in a 6 months of bad mood, you find ways to meet her. You find ways to connect because you love her. Mm-hmm. So the church shows the world very clearly. I may say it says everyone welcome. I may say God loves you. but I don't care about my neighbor. And that's why there's no innovation. Because I've seen some of the most uncreative people find incredibly creative ways as soon as it's their buddy that's struggling. It's also who you love. And that's why I think, I go back to Jesus, and he could have said so many things that would be like so radical. And he goes, love God, love your neighbor. Man, if you just get that. Because when you love your neighbor, I mean, this is what we try to do. We're not perfect by any stretch, but we started Family Central for our neighbors. We want to build the athletic center for our neighbors, right? Like the goal is to love the people that are here in Mount Salem, in Elmer, in Bayham, in this region that God has called us to. But as soon as you stop loving them, even if you say you love Jesus, even, you go to church, who you love becomes very evident. And I just think our lack of creativity and our lack of effort and a lot of that changes. And we see that, dude. You see it all the time. Somebody falls in love. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden they're a completely different person. Mm-hmm. Because now they love somebody. They have somebody different, and that's changed things. So anyways, to me, that is at the root of everything. Love is what breeds creativity. If you love what you do, you'll do it well. Mm-hmm. If you love the house you live in, you'll care for it. If you love your friends, you'll find ways to serve and love them. And so our problem is actually a love problem.
I think we leave it there.
Yeah, it's been good. Sorry, you were going to do a close. I like it.
Thanks for tuning in. See you guys next time. Guys. Take care.
Bye.